Do the INFJ and ENTP make a good pair? If so, why? Stick around for today's show to find out. We could investigate this interesting relationship from a number of different angles, but I think it'll be most helpful to take a look at the function stacks. If you're not familiar with function stacks, briefly, most people know about the 8 personality preferences that are part of Myers-Briggs personality theory, which include 4 pairs of opposites: introversion and extroversion, intuition and sensing, thinking and feeling, and judging and perceiving. These preferences can tell you quite a bit about each of the personality types, but underneath each of the personality types are cognitive functions. And there are also 8 of these in Myers-Briggs theory. They come from the work of Carl Jung. I like to refer to them as mindsets because they color the way each of us sees the world. And depending on which one of them is dominant or most influential on the personality, because each personality type is made up of 4 of these and they occur in a hierarchy or a power order. Depending on which one is dominant, that will influence the way a person thinks and acts. So when you take a look at the INFJ, you'll see that the functions are introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and extroverted sensing. Looking at the ENTP, you'll see that the functions include extroverted intuition, introverted thinking, extroverted feeling, and introverted sensing. Let's take a look at both these personalities to see what makes them compatible and to see what challenges they will encounter. And when I talk about compatibility, I'm not necessarily talking about a romantic relationship, although that sort of relationship certainly would apply to this understanding. But I'm talking about a friendship or working relationship, family relationship, any relationship in general. Taking a look at what makes these 2 types compatible, you'll see right off the bat that both are intuitives and both struggle with sensing to some extent, because sensing is their 4th function, which is called the inferior function and is often a weakness. So let's take a look at intuition for both these personalities and how it helps them get along. And then we'll take a look at sensing. INFJs and ENTPs aren't just intuitives. Both are dominant intuitives. By dominant intuitive, I mean that intuition is the most prominent part of their personality, and it plays an important role in how they approach and think about the world more than any other cognitive function, or what I like to call mindset. Now, granted, there are different types of intuitives, because you'll see that the INFJ is an introverted intuitive, whereas the ENTP is an extroverted intuitive. But nonetheless, as dominant intuitives, they're both going to share a love of big picture thinking, creativity, possibilities, and a future orientation. This common way of looking at the world will give them a lot to talk about and a similar approach to life. They'll appreciate each other's thoughts and be able to share a lot of common interests. Additionally, they'll both have a hunger for learning and exploration to some extent, and they'll enjoy learning about a variety of different topics. They won't get bogged down in the details of life too much unless they're stressed, as we'll see later, and they'll enjoy talking about a variety of things. When we take a look at the flip side of their personalities, their weaknesses, we can see that both personality types have sensing at the bottom of their function stack. So this means it's a big time weakness. And the INFJ has extroverted sensing, whereas the ENTP has introverted sensing. And this does make a difference, which we'll see later. But the key here is that details are going to be challenging for them. So that can mean the day-to-day upkeep of life that includes chores such as cooking and cleaning, or getting the bills taken care of, or shopping, or any time where there's just a deluge of unexpected to-dos. The monotony of the day-to-day grind can be a real challenge for these types, especially when it's routine and there's not much variety or future thinking involved in it, and the ideas aren't really challenging or interesting. So that is something that can really stress both these types out and can give them an opportunity to commiserate with one another and to think up inventive ways to work around it or to solve these problems. But if they're depending on each other, like in a romantic relationship between a husband and wife, to get them done, this can also be a big challenge because neither one of these folks wants to come out of their primary way of thinking, that sweet spot where they can think about the future, about ideas, possibilities, their vision. They don't want to leave that to take care of the nitty-gritty details of life. They will, for the good of the relationship, because this stuff has to get done, but they won't want to do it, and they probably won't do it as often as they should. Or one person will do it and will begrudge the other for the lack of help that he or she is receiving. So this can be a point where the two see eye to eye, but it's often a challenge, and it could lead to some hard feelings. Another plus of an INFJ ENTP relationship is that both of these personalities share introverted thinking and extroverted feeling, just in different orders. Now, you'll notice that in the INFJ, extroverted feeling is stronger than introverted thinking because it's in the second position, whereas with the ENTP, introverted thinking is in the second position. So hypothetically, both personality types should be able to understand and appreciate where each other is coming from in making decisions. Now, they'll have a favorite for sure, the INFJ, extroverted feeling and harmony, getting along with others and taking care of others, whereas the ENTP will probably favor objective, philosophical, logical decision making. But both can switch to the other way around. And interestingly, depending on upbringing and environment, what family was like, or what the work environment is like, or what kind of friends the person has, and the preference so far as introversion or extroversion. Like, for example, if an INFJ really prefers to spend time alone versus connecting with other people, then the INFJ may be more of an introverted thinker than an extroverted feeler. And vice versa with the ENTP, if that person is more of an extrovert, then he or she might really enjoy connecting with others using extroverted feeling more than diving into the introverted thinking. But that's getting a little bit deep. The point is that there's somewhat of a balance between these functions in both the personalities, so they can appreciate and understand where each other is coming from. And you'll notice that they are the same functions. They're both feeling and thinking functions, and the feeling is extroverted and the thinking is introverted. So in mature people, this could provide some serious potential for understanding one another and appreciating where each other is coming from. One more way the two are compatible is that one is an introvert and the other is an extrovert. And you might think at first, wait, this is a bad thing, but not necessarily, because the two complement each other. The ENTP will pull the INFJ out of his or her shell from time to time, or into new opportunities that the person might not venture into, which is a good thing. It's good to get out and explore to some extent, so long as you still have some time to yourself, which is a definite must for the INFJ. And the INFJ will challenge the ENTP to be more reflective and thoughtful and quiet, and to calm down and to focus on one thing or another. So this balance is really healthy, so long as the balance is maintained and they encourage each other to use their strengths, but then to explore different ways of thinking and approaching the world that they might not otherwise. Flipping this investigation on its head, let's take a look at the same functions and some of the challenges that might occur as a result of minute, or at least seemingly minute, differences. We'll start by comparing introverted intuition and extroverted intuition, and then we'll move on to take a look at the difference between extroverted sensing and introverted sensing. While in many aspects, as dominant intuitives, INFJs and ENTPs have a lot in common, they might butt heads a bit in the way they use their intuition. For example, INFJs, as introverted intuitives, appreciate a big picture, thorough understanding of a topic they're exploring. They want to understand it and try to build from the ground up an overview of whatever they're getting their mind around, whether it's Myers-Briggs personality theory, music theory, theology, philosophy, or some creative endeavor that they're trying to get started in. Whatever it is, they'll probably stick with it longer than the ENTP because they like to understand it thoroughly and very deeply. That's the nature of introverted intuition. Extroverted intuition, which is found in the ENTP, on the other hand, likes to explore a breadth of different ideas. So there is possibility as an introverted thinker for the ENTP to go deep and to know a ton about one particular topic. They probably know a lot about a bunch of different topics, and they'll have a hard time sticking with something more than 2 or 3 months, which can be great for someone who's awesome at launching new ideas. And this is a real strength. I want to emphasize that. But it may be a challenge to stick with something for a longer period of time. And this can create some frustration between the INFJ, who may want to stick it out a little bit longer, and the ENTP, who may want to move on to something more novel and exciting. While both types also struggle with sensing to some extent, they will enjoy it on a certain level, and they'll have a different approach to the details of life. As an extroverted sensor, the INFJ will really appreciate beauty and being in the moment. For example, with other people, which the INFJ needs to a certain extent, when relaxed and having had time to think about ideas or creative projects, the INFJ may enjoy just relaxing and having fun, goofing around to some extent, or maybe engaging in some sort of sport or going for a hike outside. Interestingly, as an extroverted sensor, the INFJ will probably, to a certain extent, and somewhat based on upbringing, probably appreciate really nice stuff. Like when he or she gets a computer, they may be prone to get a more expensive one, or it might play out in the clothes they wear or the car that they buy. It usually doesn't apply to all areas of life, although it can, but in certain things that they value, they'll get very nice stuff. For the ENTP, as an introverted sensor, they'll focus more on history and perhaps even tradition or routine. And most interestingly, they will want to be material conservators. They don't want to waste a lot of money on anything, so they'll come up with really creative ways to save money, and they may even get something used or inexpensive and go for savings versus quality, it could be argued, just because they value saving over getting the best thing out there. So this too can create some conflict because they'll be coming from different perspectives. Finally, the extrovert-introvert dichotomy can also be a challenge as well. So if there's not balance and healthy tension between the two, and if the INFJ is demanding that the two stay inside or don't spend too much time exploring or meeting new people or connecting with others, that's going to drain the ENTP and eventually frustrate him or her. And on the opposite side of things, if the ENTP is always demanding that the INFJ go out and not spend so much time to himself or herself thinking or focusing on learning about one particular topic, this can create a lot of frustration as well. So it's really important, as we looked at earlier, that both types are considerate of one another and they allow time for being alone, but also time for going out and connecting with other people or exploring new ideas. If you'd like to learn more about your INFJ personality, then I'd love to give you a free gift. I wrote a book called The INFJ Personality Guide, and the book explains the mindsets or cognitive functions that cause you to do what you do. And it also explores some common INFJ challenges and some ways to overcome those challenges. I wrote this book mainly just to help INFJs understand that they're not broken or messed up, but just different, and the world needs the gifts they have to offer. If you'd like a free copy, no strings attached, you can get it one or two ways. Just text the letters INFJ to the number 444999, or alternatively, visit ispeakpeople.com/INFJ-personality-guide. And I'll put that link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for checking out this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, then I encourage you to do that right now. I'm producing new videos each and every week to help INFJs better understand themselves and what motivates them, to give them insight into day-to-day life, and just to help them use their gifts to better navigate the world. If you are a current subscriber, thanks so much for being a part of this community and for your encouragement and support. I look forward to seeing you on the next show.